Molina Mike is the unapologetic voice of modern pool, a blue-collar hustler turned media powerhouse who built his name from the grind up. From flipping cues and helping broke players survive to becoming the most trusted voice in the game, he's everywhere the action is, traveling, interviewing, calling it like it is.
More than anything, it's just not being afraid to ask questions and be uncomfortable, you know? Yeah, it's not easy. And I've softened up over the years just to like maintain relationships, and that's part of it, you know? There were a lot of times where like I had come to Jesus moments with myself where it's like, is this gonna work? And almost going broke doing it. It was scary, man, a lot, because it's for all the conventions.
It's a huge risk.
Hey man, I really appreciate what you do for the sport. And that line, I get that a lot. And that's the thing where it's just like, okay, it's worth it.
Your kind of name became synonymous with something that was, trustworthy, of good quality, and if there was ever an issue, you'd be quick to fix it.
You have to, yeah. You only got one reputation, in the pool world, super.
This episode is brought to you by Integrity Cues, BSN's trusted source of premium pool cues and accessories. Shop the entire inventory online now at integritycues.com.
Hello again from the Mosconi Cup for this special episode of Talkin English in association with Billiard Sports Network. I am very happy to be alongside probably the number one podcast for billiards in the country and now globally, I think, Molina Mike.
Not a lot of options though. Pleasure, man.
Not a lot of options.
Yeah. Slim pickings.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've really carved out, a real niche in the market. And, I think what we'll talk about today is just how you've done that. How have you carved that? I think a lot of people look up to, some of the steps that you did make. There'll be some people out there that were perhaps jealous of, the success and I think, the overall position, the windows open before that. I can't even remember what it was called before that with Joey Ryan.
Yeah, I still work with Joey, but it's still the same, with Dogging It, He's still on the back end now in the last few months, but yeah.
His podcast.
Yeah. He did during COVID. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So talk us a little bit through it. Were you working before this?
Yeah. So before I started, I always loved pool, obviously, but I was kind of similar in that I was on the road a lot. I did scaffolding in the refineries for a lot of years, which is a real dangerous
Is that where the injury came from?
No. I think it's just getting old, and then I aggravated it this week when I fell down and put my weight on it, and so. But yeah, I was gone a lot and made good money, but I never got to see my girls, and so I remember I got laid off, and at the time I was working close to home. I was working maybe an hour away from home, which sometimes we can be gone for a few months at a time, across the country, and so I had a little bit of money saved up. I said I'm gonna take a little bit of time off, and I'll get a little bit of unemployment, and I'll just see what I can do as far as flipping cues, because I always had a passion for cues, Yeah. And it really stemmed from just being a pool player who wanted to try different things. So that's what I did. I started just building relationships that way with buying and selling, and then when I would get asked what I do in the pool world, it's kind of hard to say, and people recognize me now because of the page, but really that's just one part of it,
Well, again, I even forget that much. I used to buy and sell with yourself as well, and your kind of name became synonymous with something that was, trustworthy, of good quality, and if there was ever an issue, you'd be quick to fix it.
You have to, yeah. You only got one reputation, in the pool world, super small, so even the online community, we're very much like a fraternity, similar to players, and so yeah, and it was scary because when you start dealing in thousands of dollars of cues and you're living kind of hand to mouth, you ship something out and if it fucks up, it's on you. It's either you replace it and make it right and you lose out on the whatever you're in at, a couple $1,000, or you burn your reputation and then you're done. So luckily I've only had a couple of those things, but there were times when I was certainly sweating whenever I'm shipping thousands of dollars of cues overseas, doing DHL, or even across the country these days, so.
Are you still doing any of it now?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes when I'll get sponsors for the show, I'll get product in lieu of that. And I don't mind it personally because I have, avenues to be able to move it, and so, and for them it's a win because they're in it less on the product side of it versus giving over, cash for it. But yeah, I mean, I still, privately I do it. I don't post any groups anymore, so I still have good relationships with a lot of custom cue makers, and I've been in many shops and helped build cues before as well. And so, like, I'll always have those roots, I mean, it's part of it. And you kind of like, it's kind of like on the job training. I mean, you have to, know that aspect of it, because at some point you're going to be in a pool room. And I mean, listen, I might not be able to play that good, but I can at least spot out what a cue is going to be worth, more or less, And so,
I've seen you spar, mate. You can hold your own a little bit.
No, I mean, I like one puck because I could hit him into the rail, But yeah, no, it was never that side of it. But buying and selling was always everything, man. And through that is really how everything kind of started, because I'm a fan in my heart, And so when I started going to events, it was because I wanted to see history. I really appreciate that part of the game.
You're so close to it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I can remember being at home, at 4 a.m. sweating, China Opens and stuff on the internet, and using Google Translator to like find people on, international forums to get live links and stuff. And so, but like when I started going to an event, then I realized the business side of it when it came to the players. And so they were hard up for money. They had cues from sponsors similar to, what I could do sometimes. And I would say, hey, let me buy a cue from, bought from, Chris Melling or Jason or whoever,
You were like a fence, basically, right?
A what?
They call it a fence. Someone that would trade on their behalf.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I would give them cash.
Provide cash, and then a quick cash, and then you would then take the time to sell the product.
Yeah, and I would try to be fair with them. Like, hey, I'm not the guy at the end of the rainbow, and so I'm just gonna level with you. So, I need margin in order to make a little bit of money, and so if we were able to make a deal, great. But that's kind of like how the relationships with players started, and with companies for that matter, but never would I have imagined that it would have like parlayed itself into, talking with them on camera.
Everything has to start somewhere, and I think, like you said, gaining that trust, building those relationships, word gets around.
Yeah, for sure.
When people know that, and then, like you say, you're no longer talking to a player, you're talking to a CEO.
Yeah.
You're talking to sort of like a chairperson that's like, hey, we need this guy to promote our product, right?
It's been interesting, like, having to, rub elbows with, suits in the industry and movers and shakers and stuff. And that's been like a tougher transition for me over the last few years. Having Uncle Mike around helps, and because he'll, check me like I think a friend should, you know what I mean? Like, if I need it, he'll give me advice.
Panozzo.
Yeah, Panozzo, Hall of Famer.
The GOAT.
He is, yeah.
John, let's go.
Yeah, no, he really is. I mean, he was, a pioneer. We just loved pool, and I don't know how lucrative it was. He was able to do it for 40 years, but like, you gotta really have a love to maintain it. You know what I mean? So, and to keep on doing it and find the story and find the angles. And so, like, I'm lazy compared to Mike, because Mike, was hitting the streets and going to tournaments before there was, access to social media. Like, I can get news now from my phone from somebody, you know what I mean, from a player. So
pen and paper was king back there, right?
Yeah,
that was the weapon of choice. And I think we talked about, obviously, the glossy print magazine is kind of fading out.
Yeah.
But Billiard's Digest somehow found that they continued it, maybe an older readership perhaps,
right?
But where I think very much you're successful is the social media engagement. Well over 100,000 followers across platforms, across social media, which is incredible. How have you built that, or has it just come from partnerships that you've worked in?
I mean, for sure, like, it wouldn't have come without those. I think, like, more than anything, it's just not being afraid to ask questions and be uncomfortable. And so, I mean, there were times when you're built, like I said, when I first started buying and selling cues, I would have never thought I would have ended up on this side, because I wasn't a goal, I saw an opportunity when it came to how news got delivered when it came to pool.
Yeah.
And so, but in a lot of aspects, I was kind of like a pain in the ass to people too, because they weren't used to that way of doing things. And so, I ruffled a lot of feathers on the way, and I still do. But, it's just, And it's crazy because I was never even on Facebook up until I started doing all this, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't on any kind of like.
So you kind of learned as you're gone.
100%. I mean, I get guys that'll give me advice and stuff, and like from the podcast side of it, you know, Joey was instrumental, Mark White, whenever they were doing their thing, as far as like giving me an opportunity. But like I wasn't even looking for an opportunity then. You know, it just kind of, it was an accident that kind of snowballed, and then I enjoyed it, and then it was like, well, if you wanted to keep on going, you kind of have to be willing to, like any business you start, you're gonna have to lose a lot of money at the beginning to hope that it parlays into something and turns into something that resonates with people, you know. And I mean, it's easy to see like get support now, and I'm very much appreciative of it. But like, you know, there were a lot of times where like I had come to Jesus moment to myself where it's like, you know, I got girls to feed, you know, and so is this gonna work? And almost going broke doing it. It was scary, man, a lot, because it's for all conventions.
It's a huge risk. And I think, you know, a lot of the more successful entrepreneurs take that risk. You know, and someone told me something, which is another reason, you know, I have a full-time career, but my passion and my hobby is always around this environment. You know, I've been in the industry now for so many years, or I've been in the environment for so many years, wanted to make it pay off. And someone, I don't know who said it to me, but it resonated. It was like, to take the hardest step in 1,000 is take the first one.
Absolutely, amen. Yeah, for sure.
And I'll tell you, I'm now on like probably, you know, 500, you know, as I'm kind of just pushing myself to the next stage. Do you find that the people that you've met have pushed you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, like Mike's definitely an inspiration for sure. Joey, you know, those have kind of been, especially Mike, like he's really been a mentor to me. And I got the world of respect for him, you know. But like in a lot of aspects, I feel like, you know, and it's true, I feel like in so many industries where if you're going to be great at something or be good at something, it's going to have to come from you. And I drank for like a lot of years. And so like kicking that monkey off my back, and I've said this before, it's like my kids were never going to be the reason, my mom was never going to be the reason, whoever I was dating at the time was never going to be the reason. Like if you're going to do something, it's got to be from you, and you got to be real honest with yourself to be able to do whatever it takes. And like that journey of 1,000 steps, I mean, look, I was, when I was in that point of my life, you know, I could see a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, and I would like, you think about this world that's so far away and you can't even imagine what it could be like. So like to be here now is great, and I don't take it for granted, but like you got to just start somewhere. Like I've never been the guy to say, oh, on New Year's I'm going to start losing weight, or, you know, because for years I made excuses to quit drinking, or when I was going to start, or to quit smoking when I was going to start. You know? And it was like, it could never be tomorrow. It has to be now, you know? And so, but it comes with sacrifice, and you gotta, you know, you lose time with your friends and your family because you got a passion for it. And so, they probably pay more than I do.
It's commendable, mate. And you know, over the years I've known you, you've always worn your heart on your sleeve. Yeah. Which I think gives you purpose and direction. And some of the things I love on Windows Open, being at the cutting edge, asking, you know, being able to kind of hit home that tough question.
You know? Yeah, it's not easy. And I've softened up over the years because to like maintain relationships, and that's part of it, you know. That's something from Mike that I certainly get playing the game, you know. And but when you're like favoring one side versus another, people forget how it was whenever you know, it was the other way around, you know. And so but with that comes, you know, getting judged on how you go about things. And but yeah, I mean, you gotta, like just earlier today, I, you know, had a lecturing from Matcher, you know what I mean? So like it never ends, but people only see that like, oh, it's Matcher Mike and he's always kissing their ass and he's whatever, but like they don't see the behind the scenes stuff that I gotta go and back and forth and argue with them over or whatever, you know. And so the one thing though that I've learned is just I don't want to blindside anybody, right? You know, like I'm not here to, because I don't want to burn those relationships like that. Now, if you don't like the way that it comes out, most of my stuff is live, so like I'm not, you know, like you, where I can go back and edit it because I don't want the work, you know. I understand. But thank you, Josh. Yeah, Josh, you do a great job, buddy. But it's like, you know, I like that rawness of it, and for the sake of the relationship, if it is going to be tough, like I'll give you a heads up, like, hey, listen, I'm not Like, I'm not going to look the other way on it. You can give me whatever response you want, and then I'll respond accordingly. But like, I have to ask either that, or it's just not worth my time even having the conversation. So, but sometimes you just got to play the game. Like, I had Alvin on earlier, and everyone knows, his situation, and how he stands with Matchroom and stuff. And it's like, but I got to tell him, hey, listen, I'm giving you the courtesy of, I'm not going to go down that road, because for the Matchroom side of it, and for his side of it as well, because he doesn't want to, be talking about that right now either. No. So, I give him my word, I live up to it, and that helps build relationships in the long run, and so.
It does, and there's always going to be some politics, whatever you do, right?
Yeah.
And I do think in your field, you perhaps have to pick a side. You can understand, and you can be empathetic to the cause of both.
Yeah.
But in your position, I don't think you can sit on the fence.
No, I mean, like, you got to have a backbone for sure. And, there's been times where I've had like real conscious come to Jesus moments with myself when like I see a crossroads, you know what I mean? But I try to just stay true to why I did this in the first place, and so it's just, there's so many great stories in pool and so many great people in pool, but like, you don't get to hear their hardships. You don't get to hear about the world champion who was almost in tears the night before or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't get to hear stuff like that. And I feel like that's such a big part of the puzzle, and so I've kind of kept like one thing with me my entire time I've been doing this, and that's, if I like it because I feel like I'm a tough sell as far as like it being interesting, then maybe it'll, other people will vibe off it as well, and unfortunately, relatively speaking, it has, but I still always push myself and come out here, I'm going to work, however many hours it takes while I'm at an event,
And I think that, that's testament and credit to you about, previously people might have thought, oh, anyone can sit behind a keyboard or a screen and give their opinion. But what I've noticed more with what you're doing is you are traveling to the events. You're seeing what doesn't happen on TV.
Yeah.
The kind of the trial and tribulation that the players and other people go through to get these types of events. To the production quality we're so used to.
Yeah.
So what's been the best event for you when traveling? It doesn't have to be Matchroom, it can be anything. Yeah,
Matchroom does the best, like, song and dance, I feel like, at least that I've been to. Mm-hmm. Lately I've been kind of staying away from those, tournaments where you're staying out till 4 a.m. sweating around, because I don't want to do that, and I like having some normalcy despite the chaos that is, an event. This Mosconi Cup is right there with it, as far as one of the best events I've ever been to. Hanoi was like that when I went to Asia. It was great. Changed my whole way of thinking of doing everything, to be honest with you.
Did you feel like a bit of a celebrity out there, like with what you'd seen online? I know you're very humble, but sometimes kind of getting accosted and.
It's cool, man. I try to stay in my bubble when I'm doing things, like, and despite the fact that I do a lot of stuff online and talk a lot during the show, whatever, like, I'm kind of like a lot of these guys. I'm very much an introvert by nature, and that's just if I know you, it's one thing, we can vibe and we can go on and on. But like, if I don't know you, I kind of like stick to myself, So when I'm at the house and you'll see numbers, right? Like, you see numbers of people watching or clicks or whatever, and you look at metrics. But like, it never really registered until I started traveling more. And then when I'm missing my daughters, or I'm burnt out from, a 14-hour day, and then I'm getting up again at, 6 a.m. But then it's like, I meet someone where they just stop me. They don't know me from Adam, or they know me, but I don't know them from Adam, right?
Exactly,
and they're like, hey man, I really appreciate what you do for the sport. And that line, I get that a lot. And that's the thing where it's just like, okay, it's worth it. And it puts gas in my tank, because I've been drained
fuels you up, right?
Plenty times. Yeah, because like, pool deserves better, the players deserve better, but the fans, like, there's nothing without them,
You make a good point. It's so often the case when people get involved, they get such negative comments.
Yeah, Lord knows I've gotten those.
And they have such power because they're so negative, right?
Yeah.
For every one good thing, you'll remember 10 bad things, right?
Amen. I can say that's for sure the case.
But what I love is that one comment, that you get while you're out on the road, that can be more powerful than any negativity
Oh, for
you
sure,
get online,
man.
because it's an in-person interaction,
Yeah.
number one. And number two, you're doing something for them.
Look, I can appreciate the haters like anyone, and they got passion, they're fans just like I am, you know what I mean? The difference is that if you're, an asshole about it, I don't gotta hear it, because I got no issue just hitting the block button. And that part of it, I'm trying to and just lately I've been having this, just reflecting of, should I not do that, or should I just, unblock people and then just deal with it or whatever. But when you're trying to build something, the negative will for sure stand out. When I come to places like this, though, it's not even close. I mean, I've never, ironically enough, you'll get a lot of messages from people online, because online is different, right? They'll talk shit in a forum, or they'll talk shit in the chat room or whatever. But I've never been to one place where I've met someone where they come up and tell me, what a asshole I am, or what this I am, or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know why that is. But I get to meet these great people who just, hey, I want to say thanks. And I'm like, that's why we do it, right? That's the reason why you bring content to people.
You stay so low key for those that have seen Mike around the arena. He's not out there table side. He'll move around in the shadows.
Yeah, I like it better like that. Yeah.
And then on your podcast, even, I notice you like to sit in the dark. You like backlit, not front there.
I like a little bit of an ambiance, but it's all relative to taste. And you know what, stuff I'm not tech savvy, I'm not, anything like that. So I have to learn by trial by error, and so as I evolve in whatever I'm doing, I want, everything to kind of come with, whether it's a graphics or a lighting or camera work or whatever. And but I'm also slow to pull the trigger because I'm still very ignorant when it comes to all that stuff, and so but yeah, I mean, it's different now because I've always been the one to just keep my eyes open and keep my mouth shut, and then when I do the show, I'm talking a lot, but now players are a lot more aware that I'm around, for sure. Yeah. But I also give them the courtesy of if something, and it's not just the promoters, the matchroom or whoever, I'll give them that same courtesy and grace where it's if it is a little bit of a cringy subject, or you can just feel it where it's I'm not gonna air them out, or I'm not gonna throw them under the bus, and, you know what I mean? So now, if they do it publicly with the big camera on that somebody else caught, well then, the reaction part of it is just going to come with it because you put your foot in your mouth and at that point.
I'm with you, and just so you guys know, we're sweating the Mosconi Cup live. We have a screen here in the media room, which is fantastic to watch. But of all the environments and all of the arenas, the atmosphere here, and whilst we're talking about the Mosconi Cup, what do you think of the fans? What do you think the fans bring to the engagement here with over 95% of ticket sales?
Yeah, I mean,
to USA.
It's the closest thing to Vietnam that I've seen for sure. Wow. And actually, these fans this year are probably the best that I've ever seen in an event. Because they're relentless, they're knowledgeable, they're witty. They can be a little disrespectful, but from a content standpoint, I appreciate a little disrespectfulness at times.
It needs to be a line, yeah.
Yeah, and so look, it's not. You can't do things the way that they've always been done and expect to have different results, So you come to an event like this, it feels like sport. It feels like if you go to an American football game or an American basketball game.
I was going to say, it feels like college ball.
Yeah.
Where they've come in, they're all dressed up, they're face painted, they brought their cowbells,
they're tailgating out there drinking at 10 a.m. You know what I mean? Hey man, let's go,
Yeah.
So, and pool, you don't have that if you go to one city or this city or whatever. You got to build something, and that's a credit to Match of building an event that makes me want to plan my year around it if I'm a fan. People are coming from all over the world to sweat this thing. That blows my mind, and that's the part where I try to not take things for granted because, I mean, I've had a busy year, and I was talking with Alvin. Before we went on, I'm like, I don't know how y'all do these time zones, man. Because I'm not traveling as much, but I feel it so much. He's like, well, I've been doing it for 20 years. And I'm like, I get it,
Get used to it.
They get used to it, yeah. And I'm not, but it makes me have that much more respect. And then in terms of when I'm talking about their game, then I'm like, well, I mean, maybe a little fatigue, maybe a little, you know what I mean? Just came back from, a whole different world right now. So it's all about perspective but on the note of fans, I mean, these are the diehards, you know what I mean? These are the people that are going to be watching the show. These are the people that are going to be watching pool, at midnight or whatever. And so
I think Florida has a great base. You know,
They do. They got a
they've
good
got like
community.
APA 2s to 9s, Fargo 200s to 800s. You know, I feel like the community here really is in touch. And
I didn't think I would like it though, to be honest with you.
you know,
No, oh no, I didn't coming into it, like, because I
Okay.
was like Vegas. I like Vegas. I mean, Vegas is exhausting, but I know Vegas is comfortable. I'm old. I'm getting stubborn. I don't want to change, you know. But after coming over here to this resort and the way
Yeah.
the fans have been in the environment, and I was telling one of the guys at Matchroom, like especially if you get into VIP and all that, man, it's a full day experience. Like
really is.
it flies by, but you have something to do all day long.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, interaction with the players. I was going to mention because I've never been to Vegas, and I've kind of waited and hoping it would be on the East Coast. So this is actually my first US Mosconi.
Oh well, you're lucky then, because you don't have to change time zones.
Time zones.
Yeah.
I don't really. I don't vibe like I say with Vegas. I don't gamble in casinos and things like that. But I've really found that the fan engagement here has been second to none.
No, yeah. Amen. I mean, like, you know, like I said, that the Asian fans were something pretty special. Vietnam in particular, and but when it comes to these types of fans, I mean, for sure, and listen, they just love the game. And the crazy part is that this is an event after an 11-3 whooping the year before. You know what I mean? Like from a like I think about it from like in terms of sports sometimes, and I'm like, man, you know, like if what I want to plan my whole year going to an event where they just lost 11-3, like I might hang out the house and just spend that money somewhere else. But like this is why these guys are great, the fans, because they're still diehards. They still appreciate the rivalry. They still got hope and faith, and you know they may be drawn dead, but they want to root their team on. Like it's just like any 0-15 team, and the fans are still there in the stands, you know, rooting for them and clapping for them.
American sports are very much like that because, you know, I think in Europe, yeah, from what I've experienced especially, if you're 15, 0-15, or whatever the right terminology is for that, is they'll turn the TV off. They won't go out. They won't support. They'll go down the pub and, you know, bitch and moan about it to their mates and say, well, I'm not going to the game this time. American fans seem to like just pick themselves up and be, you know, full of that kind of passion and.
Well, they're a glutton for punishment, maybe, you know.
They like to be downtrodden.
No, I'm just kidding. Look, their patriotism and their fandom just comes through, and it blows me away. But it's also inspiring, and it's cool because, like, they root like true fans root for their teams, you know. And if there's some way to make that event happen every month, then that's where pool's got an opportunity. And this isn't going to happen every month, but we got to figure out a way to like make it to where it's exciting to sweat it the whole year, you know. And so, but yeah, no, it gives me goosebumps being out here, and it did back in 22 whenever I went to my first Mosconi Cup and feeling like the thing shake, the stadium shake, you know, with the cheering. And that's why you do it. I mean, you don't have anything without the players, but you certainly don't have anything without fans.
No, without a doubt. And conversely, you mentioned the players there. Who's your standout player? Who's the one that if you had to choose?
In terms of what?
One to watch.
Oh, one to watch.
So sometimes pool can be quite routine.
Boring. It can be, just say it, though. It can be boring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's your player that you would want to watch the most?
I mean, look, it's hard to argue against a guy like Jason because of his, you know, excitement on the table and his personality, because I love that, you know, like from guys. But to be honest with you, like probably one of the guys as to why I fell in love is probably Mika.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's super offensive, really aggressive, not afraid of a big stage. You know, he's got a ton of personality for better or worse, you know. And he makes pool look cool, and you want to watch it and you want to see what's going to happen. He's got some cockiness and confidence to him. You know, I no offense, but some of these Europeans can be tough to fade where you're sweating them and you're like, oh, God, like, you know, like it's just boring, you know.
I say really not because he's not a great player, but he's not the first person that people come out with. So I think it's a really interesting take. You know, there's somebody that I think they forget about him too easy.
Who's that? Mika? Yeah.
He's often overlooked. But when you look at his career in pool,
he's a player of the decade.
Talking like 25 plus years, player of the decade you mentioned in the early
Still competing with world-class players while he was battling cancer. You know, he's still he's, you know, I don't know how old he is now, but he's still,
He's only about mid-40s, like
yeah, he's not dead money whenever he goes somewhere. You know, he can light a fire still, and it's inspiring. You know, and then you hear about, you know, the things that you got to fade, and he's not afraid to be who he is, which I can appreciate. But yeah, I like guys with personality. You know, because listen, rotation in certain pool games can be brutal to watch, and it's just because like they play so good where it's a formality they're gonna get out, you know, and that part I'm like, I want the drama, I want the slide, I want the tough pockets, I want, you know what I mean, I want the action.
He's larger than life, you know, and I think you said if somebody can show their character and their personality on the table, that to me is everything. You know, I'm quite fortunate in New York. Mika comes into the room all the time, Amsterdam Billiards Society, and he kind of just hangs out with all the players. He even plays like a handicap league.
Yeah.
You know, so he loves the game that much that he wants to share in that with everybody. I think it's a really good pick. Thank you for picking that.
Yeah, no, thank Tamika. I mean, that's probably one of the guys why I fell in love with pool, man.
Yeah.
You know, just being a true like fan of it, and so.
I don't think he's done yet, right? He's not done yet either.
No, I hope not. You know, like you can still get inspired in different ways and just appreciate different aspects. And he's articulate. He can speak very well. I hope he decides to take up some kind of commentary, whatever he's done with. But yeah, he's got gas in the tank for sure. You know,
Definitely a man of the world. You know,
Yeah.
he's been to all the countries that I think Shane has. You know,
Yeah.
Shane mentioned that he visited
70, I think, or something.
70 plus countries.
Yeah, which is wild.
I think Mika must be up there too.
For sure.
Man loves to travel, but yeah, that's slightly going off topic. Well, with the future of obviously Metro, and I think Billiards is on the way back up again. What's your next step? Where are you going to take Windows Open? Is it going to continue in the same format? Is there any ideas?
No, I hope not.
Right.
No, yeah, I always try to I always still try to learn and critique or analyze whatever it is I'm doing and bring the quality and the standard up all the time. When I look back at stuff that we did, you know, a couple of years ago at the time, it was all I was able to do. And right now, what I'm doing is probably all I'm able to do, but it's not to say that I'm not continuing to look at other ways to present things to people, because those things are important, and especially with more people doing things. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I couldn't do it without whoever is supporting the page, because financially, you know, it'd just be impossible to continue on. And as great as this year's been, I mean, it may not be the same thing next year, you know.
Right.
So I'm still hungry. I'm still gonna I'm gonna work our ass off and, you know, just keep on pushing the envelope and probably piss some people off along the way. So.
Oh, I hope you don't change, mate, or I hope the industry continues to evolve with you, with Billiard Sports Network and Talking English, mate. Been a big fun.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, brother.
Pool deserves better. The players deserve better. But the fans, like, there's nothing without them.